Hi, my name's Suzanne Reel with Really Be Online, and I recently had the opportunity to implement a learning management system for a small to medium-sized company. They have about 80, 85 employees, and they were very interested in implementing this on WordPress because they were familiar with WordPress. So we talked about the requirements and we landed on LearnDash and MemberPress. Now, it was advertised on both websites that there was a plugin, which LearnDash actually developed, that integrate LearnDash and MemberPress together. However, there's not a lot out there, a lot available on actually how to implement it. There's a lot of options. Both plugins are very complex, and when you put them together along with WordPress and along with the theme, it gets even more complex. And so I was wishing I had these 8 lessons I'm going to explain to you available to me before I started, but instead I sort of by trial and error figured this out along the way, and so decided to create a video, and I hope this helps you out because if you're here, you are probably either looking at the option of implementing LearnDash and MemberPress, or you are deep in the middle of it and looking for some answers. So, lesson number 1, be careful with selecting a WordPress theme. Not all themes come with LearnDash and MemberPress compatibility out of the box. It's helpful if they do, that's for sure. Just some tips before you go invest in a particular theme. You might want to even send in a question to the theme authors and just make sure on some of this stuff before you buy it and see if they would be willing to refund you if it in fact doesn't work to your expectations or to what they're telling you, because more than likely they really haven't tested this out themselves. So you want to make sure, and ideally, again, both MemberPress and LearnDash are going to be compatible. I would say a bonus would be something like BuddyPress, because it's easy to extend this, like for our purposes of learning and the requirements that we had with my client. There were optional requirements or future requirements, things that they wanted to grow into that were more community oriented and where like a forum would be very helpful. So I think that a bonus that it's also compatible with BuddyPress is a really good thing. Be careful because some of these themes that are out there, and the one we implemented, which was called Education Center, has duplicate course and lesson functionality with LearnDash, and this could get very confusing, and we actually had to do some things to like intentionally try to hide that functionality from view so that we wouldn't get tripped up in there. And so, not that you wouldn't want to go ahead with the theme, you just definitely want to be aware of it and be on the lookout for it. Um, you're going to be doing most of your content creation in LearnDash in the lesson module. And so ideally you're going to have a theme that's going to, their drag and drop editor, whatever it is going to work with LearnDash. Now the theme that we purchased, Education Center, has Visual Composer, and it's now WP Bakery. However, it is not working with LearnDash for developing courses and lessons. And so that's just really annoying. So you'll ideally want to make sure that editor is going to work with LearnDash. And this is probably the number 1 thing I would inquire about with the theme developers before I dive in. Okay, number 2. So what we learned is that MemberPress memberships are really, think of them as LearnDash curriculums. So LearnDash has courses and lessons and then topics and quizzes and everything, but their highest level structure is a course. Unless you get into groups, and groups of people can be assigned groups of courses. But MemberPress actually is really, really great for letting you have curriculum. So we had a need to have different classes by department and job. And so we are able to use MemberPress memberships to define those curriculums, and then when somebody comes in, they just sign right up. And this is really one of the core integration features that you get with the plugin, and I'm going to show you exactly how that works. In MemberPress, you go to memberships. And after you have a plugin installed, you will see that under the MemberPress options, you get a new tab called LearnDash. When you click on that, what you're able to do is take any of your courses and select them to apply to this particular membership. So when a new employee in our situation comes on board, we assign them this membership, and along with that they get access to all the courses we've defined here. And it's really great because you don't have to assign courses one at a time. There's a lot of room for error in that. So with the MemberPress plugin, you can actually manage all of your content for a particular job or a department by a curriculum. So think of, we're just trying to think of a membership as a curriculum. And so our memberships in this world with this client, they're free, right? There's no price. We don't use any of the pricing or subscription functionality that comes with MemberPress. So think of your membership as a curriculum. Number 3, how and when to use MemberPress rules. Rules, if you haven't learned yet in MemberPress, rules are used, what they call, you set up rules to restrict content. So when would you want to use these rules to restrict LearnDash content? So let's look at a chart. One thing we just discussed in number 2 was how you can assign, and this actually helps explain tip number 2 visually as well. We discussed how you assigned curriculums to new users. So say I have a new user A coming to the system and I want to give them this one common core curriculum, and I'm going to give them one department curriculum which has a set of courses, lessons, topics, quizzes, etc. User B, however, I'm also giving them the common core curriculum, but I'm giving them 2 different department curriculums which have all of their associated courses and lessons associated with them. Now, if you know LearnDash, you know this is actually, there's one-to-many relationships. For example, one course can be associated with multiple curriculums, one lesson can be associated with multiple courses, and so on. But just for simplicity's sake, I'm depicting this as one-to-one relationships. So now you don't necessarily need to lock down this content, especially if you're behind a firewall, because let's just look at user A. Visually, you can see we gave them access to the common curriculum and a department curriculum, and that's all they can access. They cannot see or access any of this other content over here. So just by definition of the way the membership is structured, this is all they will be enrolled in. And so let's take a look at that in the system. Under rules, you don't necessarily have to set up all these rules, and there is integration between MemberPress and LearnDash when it comes to rules. So, here's your generic WordPress content rules, but when you get down a little farther, you can start to see, okay, you can also restrict courses, lessons, topics, quizzes, certificates, assignments, everything in LearnDash. But you don't have to do that. If what you're, this is complicated. Look at all these choices and look at all these things that you potentially could set up a rule for to lock down. Now let's go back to our chart and look at this. If I'm assigning a new user, so let's look at user A again, they're only getting access to this curriculum and these courses and lessons and topics, nothing else in the system. So when would I want to or need to restrict LearnDash content? Like when would I want to go in and restrict every lesson or every quiz or every course, etc.? So let's go in back to the system and look at that. So all of these things, these are all happen to be things in our WordPress implementation here that have unique URLs. And the custom URL way down here can cover your media library as well. So because they're all unique URLs, they're going to be accessible unless you have your system set up behind a firewall. So my client has this is implemented on their own internal servers behind their firewall. And so there's no need to, all we care about is the end user view on this. We don't care about somebody else getting access. But however, I probably would if I was doing an implementation of this on in a shared server environment. It's a lot more public. I would probably take the time to lock down my courses, lock down my lessons, lock down my quizzes, and all aspects of LearnDash that I was using. Okay, number 4, manage users with MemberPress. Use MemberPress as the lead in managing users and then support it with regular WordPress functionality. And it can be really confusing, like how to set up new students in the system. But I'm going to show you here quickly the best way to do this. So rather than start with your generic WordPress users, start with MemberPress members. And when you add a new member, here's the key. Membership, it's right here. So all those memberships that we set up as curriculums can be selected here. And the dealio is you can just pick one. So we picked the one curriculum that every new employee is going to be assigned. The very first thing they're going to do, it's all HR stuff and employee handbook, etc. We're picking that as the default membership for everybody. This little membership actually gets registered in the system as a transaction. But let me show you, this ties in with WordPress users because this was really confusing. First I'm going to just edit this test user. So I'll show you here. As soon as I hit edit, I'm actually, look at the difference. Now you recognize this screen. I'm bumped into the standard edit screen for a user, and then there's some additional membership information that has been added and integrated at the bottom of this page. So I can view a member's transactions, and when I hit this button, watch my blue bar on the left. Now I'm bumped back up to MemberPress transactions. So really what happened there is it just filtered on all the transactions by that user. And you can see each transaction, there's a membership column here. This particular user has already been given the ATS team member. They've already been given another membership. And let's just say I'm going to give them a third curriculum. I do it right here. Here's my membership list. I just pick the one I want to use. And really, really, really important, because there's no charging for this, nothing's pending payment. We have to say that that transaction is complete. And when you do that, it's immediately assigned to that user when you create it. So these kind of bop back and forth, but they make the most sense to me if you start with members, add that first transaction. If you start with users, there's no way to, it doesn't integrate with MemberPress. So you have to, now you're stuck adding every single curriculum as a transaction. So it's really nice when you start with members, you get to add that first baseline membership or baseline curriculum for them right away. Okay, number 5, only use LearnDash groups if you implement two-way interaction. So we don't need to group courses in LearnDash because we're grouping them in MemberPress. And we have our curriculum signed there. It's making it really easy to set up our users that way. So if you would want to use LearnDash groups so this is the only way you can kind of group people in the system instead of just courses. So LearnDash groups can actually bring people together into a group with a group leader. And so the LearnDash groups, well, there's not that much to show you here other than down at the bottom you can add people and users into groups. So you can set this group up as a department, for example. This department can have, me as a leader, and then I can set up all these people. I can add them one at a time as members or in the group. Now, it does add more complication because anytime somebody comes and goes from the company, if you want them in the group, you've got to go assign them to the group and unassign them from the group. So it's really only beneficial when you actually have two-way communication going on. And by this I mean, are you allowing comments in the system? Does somebody who is a subject matter expert have to respond to those comments? You don't want them coming into a central place where the administrator doesn't know how to respond. Do you have any quizzes that need to be graded by somebody versus graded automatically by the system? Do you have any assignments that they're required to do and somebody has to look at those? So those would be the situations where you would want to set up a group so that you can have a subject matter expert or a supervisor lead all of the interaction with their team and with that group. Otherwise, you're not going to need a group to set up just courses because that nifty little integration with MemberPress is doing that for you. All right, moving on. Number 6, this is just a caution on categories and tags. Categories and tags are used all over the place. So you have categories and tags in WordPress, you have categories and tags in LearnDash, and you have these categories and tags at every level in LearnDash. You have them at the course level. Let me show you some of that if you haven't had a chance to be in the system yet. You have let me draw your attention up here. You have course categories, course tags. I'll go to lessons. Well, I turned it off, but lesson options here, because it was just too many tags. You can turn on lesson categories, lesson tags. You can even turn on your WordPress and your WordPress post categories and post tags to go with this lesson. So there's overlap there. But continuing down, there's categories and tags for topics. There's categories and tags for quizzes, certificates, assignments, etc. There's so many ways to categorize and tag things, and it doesn't always integrate together. And so my caution in using them, and we actually said, you know what, we're not going to use them at all until we find a need to use them. This can get all of your content into like just total spaghetti in a hurry. So number 1, use them consistently. Have it documented. Have a documented process or procedure for how you're going to use the categories and tags, and then either use them very sparingly or follow your procedures very diligently, or you're going to get into a mess pretty quickly. Number 7, but it's really important to keep organized with a table of contents and numbering system like a master curriculum outside of WordPress. If you're familiar with WordPress, as you add any content and create any new posts or pages or now courses and lessons and quizzes and everything in WordPress, it just keeps a big long running list of everything. Sort by title, you can sort by date, you can filter by category only if your category or your tags are accurate. Will that work for you? But a really great way to keep track of everything is a numbering system. So give every course and every title and every quiz a number. It right in the title. So let me show you just an example document. You might have a spreadsheet that looks something like this. We have a tab started for every department. This is just a template. So our department is the first digit, 1.0, and that happens to be human resources. Then our course is the second digit, 1.1. So we have just 2 courses here. I listed, for example, 1.1 and 1.2. And then our lesson and quizzes and everything are 1.1.1. So everything associated with lesson 1 in course 1 will start with a 1.1.1. Now this makes it super easy to find things because if I show you in the system, let's go to Course Builder. I'm going to launch the Course Builder. All right, so when you launch the Course Builder, what you have here is just a laundry list of lessons. This is going to be every single lesson associated with every single course. That can get kind of crazy. So, but say you created all of your lessons for course 1.2. I sort of 1.2. So here's all my 1.2s, and now I can just drag and drop all of my 1.2 classes over there. I can also search my quizzes by 1.2 or my topics by 1.2. So it really helps when you're using the course builder to align your courses and align your lessons and quizzes and everything with your course into a course with your course content. But it also helps you in just like, let's just look at some lessons, for example. When you get a lot of lessons going, you could have pages and pages. Like this is only at 22 items and 2 pages, but you could get up to well over 100 items and or 20 pages or however many, and it's just a big long list. Well, it's really nice to be able to sort by title and have them all numerically line up in a way that looks exactly like your master curriculum, all right there in order. Oh, and here's another, this is nifty too. You can find everything related to a course as well over here. And because we have numbers, this is lining these options up in order for us too. If these didn't have numbers, you'd be sitting here searching, be in alphabetical order, but you'd be sitting here searching for your course. So it just helps you in so many ways. Even back here under MemberPress, when we were looking at the memberships, it's going to numerically, because these are alphabetical order, it's going to numerically line everything up, and I can easily see here right now all of my twos, for example, that need to go with this curriculum in that department. So makes things so much easier in the system. Also, you can do a lot with the spreadsheet, right? You can visually track where you have prerequisites set up in LearnDash. You can visually status, like you can actually have a status meeting with your team and know the status of all the lessons and whether they're in development still or not started, or maybe you set up 6-month review dates on everything. You know who your subject matter expert is, the instructor, and you can just keep track of all of your assets if you wanted to. You can keep track if there's quizzes and certificates associated with that lesson, just like all in one place, because you can't really see that all in one place inside in your WordPress system. All right, one more for you. I added these plugins to the solution to improve user experience. When a user logs in, it's like they're logging in the back end of WordPress, and you can get a lot of the admin stuff. For example, let's take a look back here. You've got your whole dashboard over here, and you've got your top dashboard, navigation up here. You don't want the user to see any of this, even though they won't be set up to access it. You don't want to certainly confuse an employee by showing them more than they need, more than is relevant to their course. So there's some things that really helped with that. The free level of the Uncanny tool set for LearnDash, if you just go look that up, has a little tick mark that you can hide the admin bar at the top of the page whenever anybody's logged in, among a lot of other nifty things that it can do. Particularly, one of my favorite is the switch user. That's free, so it's really important too if you're trying to lock down content and you need to see how you can switch from you as an admin to any user and see what go to the front end and see what they see from their point of view. So really helpful. There's another plugin called Remove Dashboard Access that hides all of this stuff on the left. It hides from the user. So that was also a really helpful addition. And then the admin menu editor, also really helpful, because what you can do, there's no way you're going to use everything in the theme and everything in MemberPress and everything in LearnDash. So what you can do is reorder your whole menu to keep what you need most visible and right at the top of every menu and submenu. So it's just a simple drag and drop editor that lets you change around the order of your whole menu, and it's just really a great thing. It makes it, very helpful for your administrators to administer the system and have easy access to what they need. So anyway, that does it. 8 lessons that I learned integrating LearnDash and MemberPress. If you have other questions, don't hesitate to ask me below, because I may be able to help from my experience. And if you would like help with your system, you can reach me. I'll put my email address there below too, and also some resources in terms of themes and plugins that I found that I hope you find helpful. So thank you. I hope this helped. Bye.